Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Dracula's Blood cocktail, which is the featured cocktail in today's episode, of course. Start with a shaker. To that, we're going to take some cherries, 4 to be exact. Add that in. Then we're going to take our muddler and muddle those cherries to break the skin. Next, we're going to add some ice. Followed by simple syrup, 1/4 ounce. 1/4 ounce simple syrup. More or less. I mean, who doesn't like simple syrup, really? Next, some merlot. One and 1/2 ounce merlot. Followed by bourbon. 1 ounce of bourbon. Next we shake. Take our glass and we strain. It says to add ice. So I will. 1, 2. And there you have it, boys and girls. Dracula's Blood. Definitely get the whiskey. It's pretty good. If you like whiskey, you would definitely like this drink. Dracula's Blood. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
When a movie description starts with 3 elderly and distinguished gentlemen searching for some excitement in their boring lives, like this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Taste the Blood of Dracula, you just know debauchery is on the horizon. And maybe it's their hypocrisy, or maybe it's just their arrogance. But somehow it's hard to feel any sympathy for these guys. You kind of end up rooting for Dracula. I mean, of course you are, because he is Sir Christopher Lee. But hey, at least you get to watch another snake dancer. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg,
Hey, I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
I think Greg has combined scary films and alcoholic spirits today. I'm just going to guess. What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
I am fantastic.
Whoa, fantastic. Any particular reason?
Lots of thirsty work today.
That's a good way to get to fantastic.
Yep. Got mulch delivered, spread mulch, all that good shit we do here in the Midwest when it gets warm.
Making your house look all pretty.
Well, trying. We give an effort at least, which is more than I can say for some of my neighbors. But moving on.
You would hate us. We did no mow May.
No mow May. Is that code for something, Karen?
It's for the bees. They tell you not to mow your lawn in May so that the bees can make a comeback.
Oh, so they can feed off the dandelions and all that shit and clover? Well,
yeah,
I got no problem with that, Karen. That's why I tell all the pest control people to come to my door, or lawn control people, either one. Oh, I see you got lots of clover. Oh, I see some dandelions. I'm like, well, the fucking bees like it. So move on. I said good day.
Move along. Yes, good day. Move along.
All right, Karen. Was this my choice of film?
Yes, it was.
The film I have chosen is Taste the Blood of Dracula. This is a Hammer film, Karen, if you weren't aware.
Shocking. You become aware very quickly that this is a Hammer film, I think.
From 1970. Because of the beautiful sets, Karen?
Yes, that's why. Why did you choose this film, Greg?
Well, Karen, this episode comes out on June the 14th. The Ides of June, you could call it.
You could.
And Taste the Blood of Dracula was released on June 7th. So we're only a week late, but it counts. Celebrating the 50th anniversary or 53rd anniversary. Is my math
When
correct?
did it come out?
1970.
Yes, 53rd.
I do have a cocktail as well, Karen.
I was wondering, would you like to tell everyone what
Why
it is?
didn't you ask? The cocktail I have is called Dracula's Blood.
Well, that seems appropriate.
I know, right?
How do you make such drink?
So we're going to need 4 cherries, Karen. I used black cherries.
Fresh ones?
Frozen.
Okay.
I did thaw them out first, though.
Oh, well, you could use them as ice cubes.
Simple syrup, merlot, and bourbon.
Nice.
Would you like to know how to make it, Karen?
Of course.
So we're going to add our cherries to a cocktail shaker and gently muddle them to break the skin, Karen. 4 cherries to be exact. Then we're going to add ice, 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, 1.5 ounces of merlot, and 1 ounce of bourbon to the shaker. Then we're going to shake and strain into a glass filled with ice and serve with a lemon slice if you are so inclined.
It's a nice bloody color. Looks almost deep purple, though, does it?
It's pretty good, Karen. Just going to say. You definitely get the bourbon. It's bourbon forward. As the ice melts, that kind of dissipates. But yeah, it's pretty good. I enjoy it. Should we give our listeners and friends time to make their own Dracula's Blood?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us from this Hammer film from 1970?
I do. It's a very brief one.
Go on. Tell me a story.
3 elderly and distinguished gentlemen searching for some excitement in their boring lives get in contact with one of Count Dracula's servants.
Go on.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match. Are you ready to get into it?
Have you seen it before?
I had not.
I had seen pieces of it because I recognized certain pieces of it. I did watch it on Amazon. Did you?
I did as well, Karen. It was rated R. No other warnings or alerts. Shall we get into it?
Yes, let's.
Do you remember 1970, Karen?
Vaguely.
Yeah, we were just babies.
We were toddlers.
Still in diapers, I'm sure. Maybe, maybe not. Taste the Blood of Dracula from 1970. And let me apologize right here, Karen, for watching these Hammer Dracula films out of sequence.
Yeah, Greg, way to go.
I am sorry. Can I ever make it up to you, Karen?
Possibly. I'll let you know.
Film opens and we have 3 men in a coach.
The film opens and we have a forest with a carriage going through it. And I started to
Shocking.
think, does every Hammer film start with a forest and a carriage going through it?
It's effective.
I haven't noticed, but I'm starting to think that maybe they do.
Very effective. That's all I can say. But one man is a man of business, Karen, apparently. He's into buying and selling. So he tries to sell one of the other men a snow globe, Karen. Do you know they have snow globes back in whenever this thing was set?
I was going to ask you when you thought it was set.
Oh, no. It's got to be 18. It's got to be like a couple centuries ago, right?
It
At
looked
this
like,
point?
well, I don't know. It had to be the 1800s, right?
That's what I'm saying. A couple centuries ago. I don't see anything that says when it
Well,
was
while
set.
you do that, I'll tell you. The first snow globe related patent was granted in 1927
Wow.
to Joseph Garaja of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Well, he makes a point to say that he bought it in some foreign land, and
But still, I thought this was earlier than that. That's a confusing plot.
Yeah.
I guess it could be doesn't it look like the 1800s though?
yeah, well, most of the time there are things I see that I'm like, well, that's not 1800s, but you know, that's patents, that's American law, right? United States of America law.
True. It could have been earlier, I guess.
But anyway, he's a buyer and seller of things, and he tries to sell one of the men in his carriage a snow globe and tries to give him a bargain, apparently, but they are not, well, I think one of them is like a special guy.
He looks like he might have some sort of disability.
Yeah, this is like a father and son, and the son may have some disability, right?
And the kid,
That's the feeling I got.
an older child, he might be
30,
20 at the most.
whatever, yeah.
And he wants the snow globe. He's like,
Yes, he really wants it.
give. And the guy won't give it to him. So what
And
do they
the father
do?
says, I suggest you do what he says.
Yes.
But he doesn't. And they throw him out
Right out the back of the
of the carriage. Yeah, and throw his shit out with him. Well,
yeah, they
least
didn't even
did
keep
that.
it. Yeah, I thought that was kind of nice.
That was nice. Then the man regains consciousness and he walks through a wooded area.
He regains consciousness. He's in the middle of the road. He gets up. And the first thing I thought was, he doesn't even swear, because that's exactly what I would do. You're in the middle of nowhere. Your stuff's on the ground. He does pick it up and start walking. Very unsteadily.
Well, he might have head trauma, Karen.
He might. It's a full moon.
I did not see that.
I did.
All right. But he hears screams and he runs, running through the woods. And
He runs
apparently
into
very
the
dark.
woods instead of down the road.
a lot darker than what we are seeing. And then I wrote, he witnesses the end of the film Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Have we seen that one?
No, we have not, Karen. I apologize for not doing these in order.
Okay. But he's added to that, right? He's not in the original.
He is not.
Okay.
He's watching from afar Dracula die at the end of the Hammer film Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Okay.
Apparently he's impaled with a cross, which would be an awesome way to kill Dracula, I think. Especially a wooden one right through the heart. But Dracula disintegrates, played by Sir Christopher Lee, Karen, and his blood turns to dust, a red dust.
Yes.
But the man, being a buyer and seller of things, retrieves Dracula's jewelry and clothes and whatever.
And the dust.
And apparently, yeah, his blood, which has turned to dust. Then we have credits, Karen. Then we cut to people leaving a church, Karen. Apparently, it's after Sunday services.
They look like wealthy people, too. Very well dressed.
And all of the main characters stop to be in frame for a second and have small talk. So we kind of meet them all in a way. No backstory or anything, but we meet them all. And we see Alice and Paul, right?
Yes.
Alice played by the lovely Linda Hayden, and Paul. And apparently they're in love, Karen.
Yes, they are.
Alice and her family get back to her house, and she is scolded by her father for smiling and flirting with Paul.
With a young man, and her father, he's a jerk. Her dad called her a sexually mature young woman.
No, immature young woman. Called her a sexually immature.
Oh, I thought he was telling her she was.
No.
I heard it wrong. And he will not have her displaying herself in a provocative manner, which she wasn't. She was just talking to him. And then her father calls her a harlot.
William Hargood is her father. And Paul's last name is Paxton.
But the wife tries to kind of scold her husband a little bit.
Martha.
Don't you remember? You know, it's only natural. She's becoming an older girl.
But she is sent to her room, Karen.
He grounds her, basically.
Yep.
So she has to stay there for lunch and dinner.
Mom goes up and consoles her. And I wrote there's a nice shot of her talking to her, and we see her reflection in the mirror.
Yeah, there is good mirror work there, and I thought that would come into play later, but we don't see it.
Did not.
But the mother, before she goes upstairs, talks about supper with the father, but he says, you know, I'm never here for supper the last Sunday of the month.
Yes, he's doing charity work
in the East End. And she says, oh, yes, because she was having the cook make a ham just the way he liked it. But he blows her off.
We learn for some reason Dad does not like Paul.
Yeah, we never really
find out why, but he's a Paxton. But then we cut to Dad picking up his father, Mr. Paxton, and Mr. Secker in a coach.
Yep, they're on their way to do their charity work.
Doing their charity work, as you do, Karen. But apparently they end up at a brothel. So I was like, well, wait a minute.
Well, but
did the driver take a wrong turn?
But before that, when they
Why aren't they feeding the poor, Karen?
Well, right outside of there, you might not have seen it. But when they come to a stop in the carriage, did you see the ad for Hudson soap?
I did not, Karen.
You didn't?
No,
you didn't see that back there?
Notice.
Well.
Do you know anything about Hudson soap being a Hudson yourself, Karen?
Well, Robert Spear Hudson was an English businessman who popularized dry soap powder. His company was very successful thanks to both an increasing demand for soap and his unprecedented levels of advertising. So basically, from what I read, what he did was he bought soap bars. He didn't even make the bars. He bought them, and then he paid people to grind them down into soap powder. One of the reasons it was so popular was he advertised like crazy on the radio programs and popular soap operas back in the radio times.
Oh, okay. Not in 1870.
It was Rinso white, Rinso bright. But do you want to know what knocked Rinso off the top?
So it wasn't like a dry soap. It was like a soap you had to use with water, just like every soap.
No, it's a laundry soap. It's a soap powder.
Oh, it's a laundry soap. Okay. So it's not like a bathing soap.
No, because that you would use the bar for.
Okay. Go on.
The product's claim to better rinsing, that was its high point, it was a better rinser, was due to its incorporation of sodium silicate as a buffer rather than, or in addition to, the more commonly used sodium carbonate. Is that what you figured? The hard water calcium precipitate formed with metasilicate tends to be finer and hence less likely to be trapped in the cloth than the chalky calcium carbonate.
Carbonate.
That's why it was Rinso was his.
That sounds like salt.
Rinso white, Rinso bright. So it rinsed out easier than the soap at the time. But would you like to know what soap knocked it off its pedestal?
I mean, is it a known brand?
Yes, you would know it.
Take a guess. Let me think about it. But it's a laundry soap, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is like borax.
It's a Procter & Gamble product.
Oh.
That was their main competitor. You probably use it today.
Well, I probably don't, but is it Tide, Karen?
It is Tide. Tide knocked him off the top.
I do use a P&G product, I believe, though. Headquartered right here in beautiful Cincinnati, Ohio. But whatever.
But then that wasn't the most important part, but it certainly caught my eye, Hudson soap. And then they get out of the carriage and throw
As
coins
would,
in
Karen.
the air to the kids, and the kids chase the coins, which I always hate when people do that.
Well, only Mr. Paxton does that. He's the last one out of the carriage, and he throws his coin up. All the others are dicks, but whatever.
So I think, they're going into the pub. It almost looked like a soup kitchen, right? So I thought, they're actually doing the charity work. But what happens,
better.
Greg?
Well, they end up in a brothel, Karen.
With what would you call him?
Felix?
The butler? Yeah.
I just wrote, Felix reminds me of Tim Curry.
That's me too. That's what I wrote too. He looks like Tim Curry, but he's like master of the ceremonies in the brothel. He gets the girls for the men, and he knows the girls who are really
he's the
clean.
pimp, basically, apparently.
But he has women's makeup on. He has
He does.
eyelashes and lipstick, and so he's
he's kind of effeminate.
Effeminate,
right?
yeah. But he says he's going to get these guys the best girls, because I bet he says that to all the guys, Greg.
Everything's prepared, Karen.
Yes, he's
They're
ready.
always
There's
there
champagne.
the last Sunday of every month.
And it looks like he might be adding drugs to the champagne. He's shaking something in there. Did you notice that?
Well, that's later, but a little later. Felix takes them to the room that's prepared, and then we see a lady dancing with a snake.
Yes, because that's they're bored with their regular entertainment, and this is what Felix has found them. And it's another snake dancer, and it goes through her legs, and she's gonna kiss it, and
And just like you talked about carriages and Hammer films, I thought, well, there's lots of ladies dancing with snakes in Hammer films.
I did notice that most of the makeup on the young ladies especially looked very 1970.
But we do see the lovely Madeline Smith with Mr. Hargood. And although we never hear it, her character name is Dolly. She's only in it for a few minutes. But anyway, then a man enters and begins looking through the rooms of the brothel.
He's a young man.
Yeah. And as he's looking through all the rooms, we do see 3 bare breasts, Karen. Various bare breasts.
Yeah, he's walking through the whorehouse.
He kind of intrudes. He's an intruder.
Yeah, he's definitely an intruder. And it looks like there's just a bunch of small rooms with curtains as doorways, and he's opening every curtain looking. I thought he was looking for men to bust a certain man.
He's looking for the lovely Madeline Smith.
Yes, he is. Karen. Yes, he is. So he does find her in the room with our 3 elderly and distinguished gentlemen.
He snaps his finger, and Dolly,
she runs right to him
and leaves with him. So then Mr. Hargood gets upset, and he tells Felix to get the other girls out of here. Apparently, if he can't have a girl, none of the others can either.
They just get annoyed because Felix says he'll get him another girl, but
no,
he's just mad that she left. Yeah, with the young man.
And we learn that the man is Lord Courtley. And apparently he's a Satanist, Karen.
Apparently his father disowned him several years ago, cut him off when he found him celebrating Black Mass in the family chapel.
And of course, the distinguished gentlemen want to know how he makes his money because they know the story.
Yeah, how does he get money? How does he live?
And Felix tells him, well, the girls pay to be with him. So he's like a gigolo or something, right?
Well, they're fascinated by him. He's the very devil himself.
And Felix hypothesizes that he may be possessed by the devil. Mr. Hargood seems intrigued. So then they go out and they grab Lord Courtney and take him to dinner.
Yes, they're all, teach us your ways. How are you doing this?
Cut to Alice back at the house, and she's getting ready for bed.
In what looks like a very uncomfortable nightgown, I'm just going to say.
We don't see anything but her bare back.
No, but it's all lace and itchy looking.
Yes, but that is Linda Hayden. And according to my Hammer Glamour book, Karen, she wanted to do this film because she didn't have to take her clothes off. It's one of the things that she liked about it. Well, she did, but we didn't see anything. And we learned that her mother, Martha, is sad for her because she remembers being a young woman, Karen.
Don't we all?
Well, I don't.
That's a shame, Greg.
Cut to the men having dinner. Lord Courtly asks them if they would be willing to sell their souls for the devil, because apparently they're thrill seekers, Karen. They keep this facade of being good church-going men, but behind the scenes, they're looking for thrills.
They're debauched. They kind of do hesitate when he says, would you be willing to sell your soul to the devil? But not for very long.
Yeah, they want, well, what do you mean? What do we have to do? What would that entail? Go on.
Basically, he says cash dollars.
And we cut to Paul going to see Alice at her window. She climbs down the tree to be with him. Did you ever climb down a tree, Karen? Or you didn't have to go through that?
No, we lived in a ranch.
Okay.
So no.
You
But
just
the
climbed
tree
out
is
the window?
convenient. She just walks down it like steps.
Apparently, we learned that Paul has received some money from his uncle and he's going into business for himself. So that means they can go away together, just like they've always talked about, Karen.
Yeah, but now that it's reality, she hesitates.
She doesn't want to just leave her, especially her mother.
Well, she says her parents at first, and he says,
No,
what are you
but-
talking about? Your dad's a dick. We all know it. He treats you horribly. She's like, yeah, but I can't leave my mom.
Can't leave mom with the dick.
So, and then Paul is like, so it's all talk. You don't really love me.
Don't be a dick, Paul.
Yeah, she's already got that in her life.
We cut to Lord Courtney and the men. And they're visiting a shop run by the man we saw at the beginning, the buyer and seller of things. Because Lord Courtly tells them that if they want to sell their souls to the devil, all it takes is money to buy stuff. And they want to know what. And so this is what we see.
Well, he needs to perform the ceremony, and he needs these certain things to do that. And
Yes.
this guy is the one who has it. And the shopkeeper knows him and is kind of rebuffing him because he knows he doesn't have any money. But he's basically saying, but I have 3 gentlemen here, distinguished, who have money, who are going to pay for this thing for. And he's like, name your price.
They don't even know what they're buying.
No.
So the man pulls out a box, and it is all the belongings of Dracula, including his blood that is turned to dust. He has it in a very large vial, Karen.
Yeah. Looks kind of like a test tube, but a very, very big one.
The shopkeeper explains that the items belonged to the most evil man of all time, Dracula. He tells them the powder is Dracula's blood. Lord Courtly wants the men to buy the items to perform the ceremony. Shopkeeper wants 1,000 guineas, Karen. But Lord Courtly tells them that they will be repaid 1,000 times over for the price they pay. And
this is all in one night, right?
It is.
Okay.
They apparently agree to buy it, and the shopkeeper says, "May the devil take good care of you," to the men. Men leave with the case and a map.
It's a cartoon map. Did you see the map?
Yeah.
It's got little drawings. Looks
like
like
a
a kid
cemetery.
drew it. It's trees. It's the forest. They're trying to draw where all the trees are. It was ridiculous.
And crosses. So they arrive at a cemetery and they enter a church. And right here I wrote, this is a beautiful set.
It is.
This church
I
is
think we've
beautiful with the pentagram and the black candles and
well, but the church wasn't
the
this
horns
in
of
another,
the devil hand. You see that?
But the church itself was in another film we saw.
Was it?
I think so. They must recycle their sets. But yes, it's set
Probably,
up.
but it's beautiful. I think
It's set up for devil worship.
it's beautiful.
It's got the tapestry of the goat and it's got black candles, black cloth on the altar. It's all ready to go.
Yeah, I kind of wrote kind of Baphomet, but not quite.
Yeah, I didn't.
Whatever. It's a beautiful set, Karen.
Okay. Does it look like yours?
My house
Your family chapel?
or my Halloween. Was that what you're saying? My Halloween?
Yeah,
display?
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's Karen. That's exactly what it looks like. And they enter and they see Lord Courtly lying on a crypt, and he startles them. So they're walking in blind. They don't know. And they're asking, hello, whatever. But Lord Courtly places the items from the box on the altar and puts on Dracula's cape.
Rather bold of him.
Yeah, I know, right? I wouldn't do that shit, but he did. And he gives each man a goblet, which he made them bring. Probably crystal goblets, which was even more money.
Yeah, they probably bought them there, yeah.
And then he's reads some words, Karen, apparently an incantation calling on the Prince of Darkness, but it's not in Latin as usual. It's in English.
No, and I said he's calling to Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, but he doesn't appear. Calling for his allegiance, he commands that he draw near and do his bidding.
Then he pours some of the blood powder into each of the men's goblets, takes a knife, slices his hand open, and then puts a drop of blood in each of the men's goblets, and powder bubbles and turns to liquid, Karen.
Yes, and it's starting to bubble over the top of the goblets. One drop of blood.
And then Lord Courtly makes himself a goblet. He tells the men to drink, but they are hesitant, Karen.
Very hesitant.
Yeah, they're like, well, I don't know about all this shit. Wait a minute.
This is getting weird.
Yeah, this might be real shit here. But Mr. Hargood, Alice's father, tells Lord Courtly to drink his first. He does. And I wrote, it doesn't go well, Karen.
It does not.
He asks for the men's help, but they kick and beat him instead.
So, okay.
To death, Karen. He gone.
This is very confusing to me. So it all bubbles up. They're all holding these goblets of blood. He says drink. They won't drink it because it's a goblet full of blood. But they say you drink it first. He does, and he starts gasping, falls to the ground. He's crawling towards each one of them saying, help me, help me, help me. Okay, right there. What are they, if they all drank it, what? Okay, anyway, so I don't really understand the concept here. But instead of helping
I'm
him,
not sure Lord Courtly does either. Or
even just leaving him there for reasons I don't understand, they beat him to death. Why? Do you have a reason why?
Because he was like clutching at them and saying, help me. And they're like, oh, fuck.
So that's when you get beaten to death?
Yes, that's when you get beaten to death, Karen.
Okay, good to know. I won't ask you for help.
Yeah. Well, especially after you drink the blood of Dracula and start convulsing on the ground. And yeah.
So they kill him and then they leave.
Next, we see Mr. Hargood back at his home, and he finds blood is still on his hand, and because it's always hard to get the blood off your hands, Karen.
Well, it's very symbolic. He has blood on his hands that he wipes off with a handkerchief, which is weird because wouldn't you go to the sink? Because now the blood's on the handkerchief.
It's like 18 something or other. I don't know. They don't have sinks. They have chamber pots or whatever. I don't know what they got.
I still wouldn't leave it on. Maybe I've watched too much CSI, but I wouldn't have left it on the handkerchief.
Well, they ain't got DNA in those days, Karen, so it doesn't matter. But he goes and makes himself a drink, Karen. His wife comes in and he tells him that if anybody asks, he was home all evening. Then Alice comes downstairs and he tells her the same thing. He then breaks down and cries, but he will not tell his wife, Martha, what is wrong. He won't say, we killed a man tonight. We were in league with Lucifer, but whatever. But then back to the church.
Didn't come up in casual conversation.
No. We come back to the church, and apparently there's a sandstorm in the church, Karen, covering the body of Lord Courtly.
Yes.
Once his body is engulfed in sand, it breaks away, revealing Sir Christopher Lee with very red contacts.
So Lord Courtly turned into Christopher Lee?
Yes.
So what if they all four had...
But they didn't, Karen, so it doesn't matter.
I know, but this is the confusing part to me. Like, what if they all drank the blood?
Maybe there be 4 Christopher Lees. I don't know.
Well, that would be exciting.
That would be. Then Christopher Lee says, they have destroyed my servant. They will be destroyed. I think I wrote down every Christopher Lee line in this film. Almost. Okay.
Why does he really care? He's back to life. He destroyed his servant. He became his servant.
No, they killed him.
But the only reason Christopher Lee could even come back to life as Dracula is because that guy drank his blood.
But did he have to die?
How did Christopher Lee turn into him if he's not dead?
We don't know, Karen. We don't know.
This movie makes no sense. I'm sorry. This is just...
Karen, I don't like your tone.
Well, that's not the first time. I'm just confused. I don't get it. Okay.
Don't overthink it, Karen. So then we see Jeremy, Lucy, Alice, and Paul. And they're apparently racing horses, or at least Lucy and Jeremy are.
Did you see how Lucy was riding the horse?
Was she riding side saddle?
She was riding side saddle.
That's wicked hot, Karen.
Did you know that the earliest depictions of women riding with both legs on the same side of the horse can be seen in Greek vases, sculptures, and Celtic stones?
How else would they ride horses, Karen?
Medieval
Their legs don't operate like men's.
Medieval depictions show women seated aside, with the horse being led by a man or seated on a small padded seat behind the male rider.
Of course.
9th century depictions show a small footrest or planchette added to the pillion. That's the padded seat they sat on. These designs did not allow a woman to control a horse. She could only be a passenger. In Europe, the side saddle developed in part because of the cultural norms which considered it unbecoming for a woman to straddle a horse while riding. This was initially conceived as a way to protect the hymen of aristocratic girls, and thus the appearance of their being virgins. Further, long skirts were the usual fashion, and riding astride in such attire was often impractical, awkward, and could be viewed as immodest. However, women did ride horses and needed to be able to control their horses, though there was a need for a saddle designed to allow control of the horse and modesty for the rider. So they did design side saddles. They still use them today.
Awesome. I'm not even going to, I have questions, but I'm not going to ask.
It's a niche.
All right. We learn that Lucy and Jeremy are engaged.
Yes, she shows off the ring.
And Alice and Paul discuss how their fathers have been acting strangely since they came home the other evening on the last Sunday of the month, apparently.
After their charity work.
So next, Alice runs into her father while looking for her mother. She's getting ready to go to a party. We've heard about this party earlier.
And they talk about it right before they leave, the group of them. Because the girls say, "What are you wearing?"
Yes. "What
color are you wearing?" So they don't clash, and then the boys make fun of them, and then they all disperse. It's the Allen party on Friday night.
But Alice tells her father that she is going to the party with Paul because he asks, "Why are you dressed?" Because she's dressed pretty good. Nice dress.
She's dressed pretty good. She's got a fancy dress on, yes.
Yeah, nice dress. He forbids it and tells her to go take that dress off, you harlot.
He's been drinking heavily.
Yeah, as he does for the rest of the film. Next, Paul arrives after Alice runs back to her room, and Mr. Hargood tells Paul that Alice will not be going to the party with him. Paul asks Mr. Hargood what he has done to offend him, and Mr. Hargood says, "You don't have to do anything to offend me." And he drives off.
Yes, he leaves the house.
I said good day. Hello, boys and girls. Karen and I hope you are enjoying the podcast. You know what I think can make your listening experience even better? A delicious themed adult beverage. You can find all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com, in the recipe den. Tune in every Wednesday and join us for a drink. Now, back to the show.
So that doesn't stop Paul.
No, he goes to Alice's window.
Again, as is their custom, it seems.
Alice decides to sneak out and go to the party with Paul. Climbs out the window, and they go. Go back to the church. Dracula, being nighttime now, rises from his crypt. Cut to Mr. Hargrove, Mr. Paxton, and Mr. Secker discussing whether they should go back to the church and hide the body of Lord Courtley. But they decide since no one goes there to that church, he will likely just rot, whatever. They don't see a need to go back and hide it or anything. And if anyone does find it, it'll be a tramp who will not, call the police. Surely.
Well, and if he just decays there, no one will know who he was.
Nope.
They just decide no one ever goes out that way. So we've gotten away with it.
They agree never to speak of it again, basically. That it never happened. Cut to Alice and Paul coming home from the party. And they kissy face Karen.
Yes, they do.
Alice climbs up the tree into her room. She gets up there and she finds her father waiting and confesses that she went to the party. And I wrote, he seems very drunk, Karen.
He does. And she apologizes right away, and she tells him the truth right away.
She does.
Little good it does her.
He shuts the door behind him, and he has his whip. Is it a riding crop?
That's what it looks like, yeah. But he keeps saying he's going to whip her.
Going to whip your ass, he says. He says, I haven't whipped your ass since you were a young girl. But he pauses and kind of looks at her breast as he says it.
It's creepy.
It was kind of creepy.
I thought it was it made me uncomfortable. Let's just say
incestuous.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I thought the same.
I don't know if it was played that way on purpose or it just came off that way, but he seems a little too
maybe
excited.
Maybe 1970 it wasn't, but today it might come off that way.
He seemed awfully excited to get to whip her.
As you would, Karen.
Not if it was your father.
But
Stay
Alice
focused, Greg.
Alice pushes him away and she escapes out the window and down the tree.
Which she is very adept at because obviously she's done that many, many times.
Many times, even in her fancy dress, Karen.
Yes.
Her fancy tight-fitting dress. At least the top is tight-fitting.
It is.
So then Alice gets down from the tree and calls for Paul, but Paul is not there, but Sir Christopher Lee is, Karen.
Dracula is, yes. We should probably use the name Dracula once in a while.
But I call him Sir Christopher Lee a lot. So, and we have some eye play, Karen.
Yes, we do. Mesmerizing eyes.
He kind of hypnotizes her and he
knows her
towards
name
him.
and she can't resist him.
And back in her room, Mr. Hargrove pulls his shit together and calls for her. He goes looking for her, and just as Dracula, played by Sir Christopher Lee, is about to bite Alice, Mr. Hargrove arrives outside calling for her.
Yeah, I don't know why he stopped. I guess because he recognized him as one of the men that needed to be killed.
And he sends her to her father. And then he says, now. And Alice hits her father over the head with a shovel. Mr. Hargood looks up to Christopher Lee and he dies. Or Dracula. He gone. And then Dracula, played by Christopher Lee, says, the first. Telling you, I have like every Christopher Lee line written.
I didn't think that he would be the first. I thought the nervous guy would be the first.
That makes sense. You think he might be the last, right?
Yeah, I thought he would be the last. But
charismatic or whatever. So then we see the police at the Hargood house and they're investigating the death, of course. And Paul is there and he tells the police that Alice is missing. Police believe that Alice has just run away from home.
Yeah, nobody cares.
As you do, Karen, right?
No, I never ran away from home. Did you?
No, why would I do that?
I know.
Then we cut to the funeral.
But the investigator is not very concerned at all that Alice has disappeared, which you would think an investigator is thinking, this man who treated this girl really badly is now dead in the flower bed and she's gone. She
would be prime suspect, right?
That's what I would think. But he just says, oh, she just ran away. If she ran away.
Women don't kill, man. They're not killers.
I don't know. It's just
especially daughters. They don't kill their father, do they? Ever?
Odd. But yes, funeral.
Mr. Secker, he looks worried. He begins to panic, I think.
Yeah, they stare at each other, the two remaining men.
Mr. Secker and Mr. Paxton.
And they sweat.
Then Paul says he will take Mrs. Hargrove home, Martha.
But why are they even nervous? I mean, I know but why would they think that was retribution?
I know what you did last summer.
Yes, but why would you think that was retribution?
I don't know. Maybe they think they're playing with forces they don't understand. I don't know. As you would in 1970, Karen.
Okay.
But Alice is there and she calls Lucy from the woods, still in her party dress. Alice is.
Yes, I made a note of that too. So before Lucy leaves the funeral, Alice calls her over and says, "Come to the house tonight. I'll tell you everything. Just come to the garden.
Yeah, meet in the garden and not tell anyone."
Don't tell anyone."
So back at the Hargood house, Mr. Secker arrives and he wants to see Martha, but she's not up to seeing visitors. But Paul is there and he's leaving, and Mr. Secker asks Paul about the police investigation. Paul tells him that as far as he knows, they are doing absolutely nothing. And he's upset about it. He wants them to do more, and Mr. Secker cautions him not to do anything that he may be sorry for.
Yeah, that'd be quite the blow to the mother to have the father dead in the garden and the girl missing. But she doesn't seem to be upset.
She can't see visitors, Karen.
Well, but at the funeral, they just went ahead with I don't know. It's just weird.
And then Sir Christopher Lee, or Dracula, arrives just as the men leave. Then Lucy comes to see Alice in the garden, and Alice tells Lucy to come with her, but she's still wearing the dress from the party. And Alice brings Lucy to the carriage and they ride off. And the carriage is driving very fast, Karen.
It's a very rough ride.
Alice is enjoying it. She's laughing, but Lucy not so much. Eventually she yells stop, and the carriage does stop, and she gets out and she finds there is no driver on the carriage. Alice takes Lucy to the church and introduces her to, I wrote Christopher Lee, but Dracula.
So why was Dracula at the house when the men were there? I thought he was going to go meet them in the garden, but then they got into the carriage and now he's back there already. He is quick.
Lucy becomes scared and tries to run away, but Alice stops her.
And brings her over to Christopher Lee.
Brings her back to Dracula, Karen. And he hypnotizes her.
Yep.
And bites her. But she seems to enjoy it, Karen.
She does. But his eyes get all bloodshot.
And Alice seems sad.
So I guess when he feeds, he gets bloodshot eyes.
Alice is, I guess, jealous, or
a little bit.
Why can't it be me? That kind of thing.
I guess. So she hasn't been bitten?
Nope. Not at this point. She's just hypnotized.
All right.
Then we see Mr. Paxton. He goes to Mr. Secker and tells him that it is Lord Courtly doing all these bad things. He's the one that killed Mr. Hargrove and whatever. They decide to go to the church and see if the body is still there on the floor where they left him to rot. Go to the church and they find the body missing, Karen. They hypothesize that maybe someone took the body and hid it. And being looking around the church, they find that one of the crypts has been disturbed. They push the lid open. Inside a coffin inside the crypt, they find the lovely Lucy.
Is she in your Hammer Glamour book?
She is not.
Okay.
But she is breathing.
Well, they say she's dead. And I said, but she's breathing because she's in a very
rising. I noticed.
A boobalicious dress. Yes. And you're seeing them go up and down, which, they're very prominent. And that's the point. But any little breath she takes is a big heave in the breasts. Plus her eyes are flickering too. She's not a good dead person.
Well, she's not dead, but they do notice the marks on her neck. And Mr. Secker tells Mr. Paxton that Lucy is now a vampire. Apparently he knows such thing. He is quite the study, as we saw earlier, but we didn't talk about. Mr. Secker tells Paxton that the only way to free her is to drive a wooden stake through her heart. And if not apparent, Mr. Sexton is Lucy's father.
Yeah, I didn't get that until right now.
Yeah, it's Lucy Sexton, and his name is Samuel, but we never hear it. But that's his name. But Mr. Paxton can't do it. So Mr. Secker begins to get the stake out and drive it through her heart. But Paxton pulls a gun and shoots Secker in the arm, tells him to get away from her. He runs from the church and collapses.
And we've talked about this many times, but I still think that would be very difficult to do to your own child. Not for you. I know, but it would be hard for me to do that. I don't think I would shoot someone else. I don't know, but when you think about it in time sequence, he just found out what a vampire is. He comes in the church. He doesn't
Paxton
even know.
did.
Right. And then this guy is saying you have to drive a stake through the heart and all. You have to believe all that right in that moment to be able to do it. And I think you would need time to process, is all I'm saying.
Probably. I'll give you that.
If you didn't have the study that Secker
right.
had,
Yeah.
And it's your kid.
So then Mr. Paxton begins to drive a stake through Lucy's heart, but she opens her eyes. He relents, right? After Secker leaves.
He looks like he's praying over her for a while and then finally decides, okay, I have to do this. And then right as he's about to do it, she wakes up.
And he stops. And then Dracula and Alice enter. Dracula, Sir Christopher Lee says, now. And the girls attack Mr. Paxton and drive a stake through his heart. He gone.
There's a lot of thin blood there. But yeah.
And Christopher Lee's next line is the second.
Yes, very dramatic.
So next we see Mr. Secker out in the churchyard, and he regains consciousness and enters the church. But apparently
it's the next morning, I think.
Probably, yeah. He finds Lucy's coffin empty. He decides, oh, well, I'll just go home. And he does and retires to his study.
But he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah, he's got a bullet in his arm. I think it could have gone.
That's what it looked like.
Through, but still bleeding. Very bright red blood.
Yes, it is.
So next, Paul visits Mrs. Hargrove, Martha. He tells her that he and Jeremy's a Secker. There's all the same three families here. Have searched everywhere.
Paul's the only one
Alice.
that doesn't. Paul's the only one that doesn't have a dad in that group, right?
He's a Paxton. His dad was just killed. He doesn't know it yet, but he gone.
So he's Lucy's brother?
He is.
Okay.
Paul Paxton. Which is funny because now that you mention it, that would have been a good thing for him to find his sister, but whatever. So then Jeremy arrives at home, Jeremy Secker, and to find his father in the study, kind of slumped over his desk. And Lucy knocks on the window from outside and calls him out. And then Lucy bites him on the neck.
Yeah, Jeremy.
She's full vampire now. At some point, Mr. Secker regains consciousness and Jeremy enters back into the study. And then Mr. Secker sees that Jeremy is a vampire by the bite mark on his neck. And Jeremy stabs his father right in the gut. With a letter opener or something? What do you think it is, Karen?
That's what it looked like. Because Mr. Secker's writing a letter to Paul to tell him what's going on.
Which I didn't get at first, but yeah. But he gone. Then we have another line from Sir Christopher Lee, the third.
So, yes. And the letter is on the desk with Paul's name on it.
Lucy running after Sir Christopher Lee, saying, Master, did I please you? And he bites her on the neck again. And again, she seems to enjoy it.
For a little
bit. Until she doesn't.
Yes. Did he kill her? I think he did.
I think she gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we cut the police investigator there again, investigating the death of Mr. Secker this time. And they have the letter there. And police believes that Jeremy killed his father because he hated him. Kind of based on the letter. But they do say that the letter is all foolishness, talks to vampires and things like that, right? To Paul?
Ramblings of a lunatic.
Paul tries to tell him that Jeremy did not hate his father, but doesn't do any good. Cut back to the church. Dracula, Sir Christopher Lee, is going to bite Alice. Finally. Still wearing her nice party dress. But just as he's about to, a rooster crows, Karen. He storms off in a huff.
Yes.
So apparently it's dawn, right?
And I did say these girls look like they could be his granddaughters.
Yeah.
It's just a little, the whole thing's a little ick. But
Dracula don't care. It's Prince of Darkness. He don't care.
But he's only going after the young ladies.
As you do, Karen. So next we see Paul reading Mr. Secker's letter. And he finds a book and we hear the letter recited in Secker's voice, whatever. And he finds a book on vampires in the study and he begins gathering a vampire killing kit.
Yes, he's a quick study.
Yes, the letter says that Alice is Dracula's servant, but she may not be a vampire yet, as we know, because he didn't bite her. And Paul takes the map and goes to the church.
The cartoon map.
He finds the body of Lucy floating in a pond.
On his way, yeah.
She gone.
Did you notice you could see his breath?
Yeah.
It was cold.
You saw your breath a lot. The horse's breath a lot.
Yeah.
And the actor's breath.
I just felt bad for Lucy out there in the pond. Because that was cold. When he dragged her out.
Yeah, woo, that's what I thought. Ooh, she's got to be cold. Didn't see her breath, though, so she did well.
Yeah. But she was half in, half out is the worst. That's when you're the most cold. And she was floating, so she was cold.
Paul arrives at the church. He puts a cross on the door. In case there is a vampire there, they cannot leave. Then he begins removing all the satanic imagery from the altar, Karen. Replaces the black
putting up,
candles with white candles and lights them. And places a cross on the altar. Then he begins looking for Alice. It begins getting dark real quick, Karen. Right here.
As it does in these films.
And he begins hearing screams. Deafening, apparently.
Only for a minute, though.
Then Dracula and Alice enter. Paul pulls his cross on Dracula. Alice tries to stop him. He tries to convince Alice that she still has a choice between good and evil, Karen. Alice pleads with Sir Christopher Lee or Dracula to take her with him, but he casts her aside and tells her he has no further use for her. She don't like that, Karen.
No, she doesn't. That was a mistake on his part.
Yeah, he tries to leave, but the cross on the door stops him, and then Alice is angry and throws a cross at him. And he leaps up on the organ and the area above the church and tries to escape through a stained glass window. But there's a cross in the stained glass window, and it burns, Karen, I think.
And he's throwing the pipe organ pipes down at them.
Yes.
But yes, the cross burns him from the window.
Then he turns to look at the church, Karen, and in his imagination, it's a very nicely decorated church. Very holy.
I said, is he hallucinating or is this a flashback?
He's hallucinating, I think.
Yeah, because there's a mass being celebrated in the church. The priest is speaking Latin.
Is that what it is? A mass?
Yeah, and he's visualizing this whole thing. But I couldn't, I wrote, what's happening? Is he hallucinating? Is this a flashback? What?
Yeah, I wrote, he hears a prayer. I guess that's the mass, Karen. And then he falls from the stained glass window and lands on the altar. And he begins disintegrating and turns back to dust.
I wrote, what? WTF? First of all, he falls forward somersaulting. He lands completely perpendicular to the way he was falling, perfectly on the altar. Nobody touches him, and he disintegrates.
Yeah.
There's no sun. There's no stake in the heart.
Nope. It's just a holy altar, Karen, I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Maybe we'll get into it later. Then Paul places the cross on the floor, and he and Alice leave the church. They'll live happily ever after, I guess. Credits, the end.
His sister is dead. His father is dead. And they basically skip out of the church. Her father is dead. It's like, tra-la-la, okay.
Well, doesn't matter as long as they're happy.
I guess. I didn't get this one. This one seemed hastily put together.
All right, Karen. Anything you were pleasantly surprised by or really enjoyed in this film?
The sets were amazing as always.
Beautiful.
The costumes were okay. The snake dancer, didn't she look like she was from the 1970s?
Yeah.
Like she had go-go boots on.
Yes. Yes. At one point when they're walking from the funeral, the walkway is paved. So whatever.
It's just there were definite style issues this time, which is unusual because most often they have really good costumes, I think. I guess that's pretty much it. What do you got?
Well, of course I enjoyed the sets, Karen. They're beautiful. And I think I said everything. Oh, here's one thing I wrote. That you know who Geezer Butler is, Karen?
Yes.
So the first Black Sabbath album came out in 1970. Same as this film. And I was sitting there watching it and I'm like, I can totally see Geezer Butler watching this film and writing lyrics.
Really?
Absolutely. In the Satanic Church.
Okay, in the church, yes.
Yes.
But not
absolutely.
the story.
No, just the imagery and things. I mean, there was even like a hand with the
devil horns.
Yeah, there's a name for it, but I don't remember what it's called. It predates Dio by a long ways, but
it's not just called throwing the horns.
No, it's like the thing where you ward off evil spirits or something like that, but Italian thing. But and the pentagram, and there's kind of it's not Baphomet, but kind of close. Yeah, I just wrote Geezer Butler.
Yeah, the church was definitely the best part.
I agree. Costumes are fine. Special effects were fine.
That when he turned into Christopher Lee, that was kind of, again, you're looking back on it, so I can't comment.
But for 1970, I think it was
it's hard
good.
To comment, but it was the sandstorm in the church was okay.
It's pretty good. I thought it was pretty good for 1970. I tried to put myself in the time.
I'll take your word for it because I thought I said terrible special effects.
I do remember 1970.
I will say his contacts, where his eyes were all red when he woke up, that was probably pretty groundbreaking back then,
And whenever he bit someone too, his eyes were very bloodshot.
Yeah, do you think they did that to him? Like they irritated his eyes?
No.
Probably
I think there were contact lenses.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Or they just rub onions in his eyes or something. There might have been drops they put in his eyes to irritate him.
Or maybe. That's all you liked, Karen?
Is that all you liked?
I think so. Such fantastic. And Christopher Lee was awesome. Acting was good, I thought, all the way around.
I guess.
I even liked Mr. Hargrove.
You liked him?
Oh, I thought he was a good actor.
Oh.
He did a good job, right?
I guess.
He was believable. I liked Lord Courtley.
I didn't like him. I thought he was over the top.
Well, that's what I liked about him. All right. What didn't you like, Karen?
I didn't like, there were some plot things I just didn't understand. Like the goblets, what would have happened if they all drank them? Why is he killing everyone when he took over that guy's body and he's the one who killed him? If he wasn't dead, he wouldn't be back. I didn't get it. I didn't get why he died. I guess we've never learned that he would die on a holy altar. And why couldn't he just get up from there? He wasn't wounded. The weirdest part was none of the characters were very likable. You weren't really rooting for anybody. You were kind of like, yeah, they deserved it.
Pretty good story, though.
I mean, I don't think Hammer films are especially deep, but was it some sort of commentary on the hypocrisy of church goers and them not really being as good as you think they are? Or is it just...
Well, some churchgoers, I'm sure some of them are very...
Some are. And I just wondered if this was some sort of commentary on that in the 1970s or if it was just an idea that they took.
Well, I'm sure.
But I didn't really like any of the characters. Even Alice, when he had the money to leave, why didn't she just go? Like, what?
She didn't want to leave her mother with her father.
Could have taken her mother with her.
Really? Paul might have said, yeah, let's not do that.
Maybe, but it felt rushed. Not in pace of the movie, but just in development of the movie, to me. Is there anything you didn't like about it?
No, not really.
I mean, it's a pretty typical Hammer Dracula film. I guess I missed Peter Cushing. There was no foil for Dracula.
No, I thought if anything, I thought it might have been a little anticlimactic at the end when he just fell on the altar and died.
Yeah, there was no foil for him. No,
it would have been better if there was like a crucifix on the altar and he fell on it and was impaled. That would have been better.
Yeah. But there was no one to threaten Dracula. I mean, I understand he died at the end anyway, but we don't even know why. He just fell. Nobody pushed him. Nobody challenged him.
Well, I think his vision of the Catholic Mass pushed him over the edge and he fell on the altar and
I guess, but we don't
perished.
that didn't make any sense. So he
Mhm.
had a memory and he died?
Yeah.
That's gonna be harsh if you're Dracula and you live forever. If your memories are gonna get you, because you're gonna have a lot of them.
It's true.
I don't know. It's just not my favorite, but a very typical Hammer film. I missed Peter Cushing, I think.
All right. What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen? I think you're going to give it worse than I would, but go on.
Well, I'd give it a 4, but if you're going to give it a 3,
I would give it a
3.
3 for sure. I was almost going to give it a 2.
Really? You liked it that much? Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You can give it a 3.
We'll give it a 3.
I would say only because it's a typical Hammer film and you're getting what you expect to be getting. There are no surprises, just disappointments.
All right. I don't have any critics reviews, Karen. I couldn't find any from
Really?
1970. No, I couldn't.
Huh.
I tried. But I do have some facts about Madeline Smith from the Hammer Glamour book, Karen.
Ooh, well, let's talk about her.
This was her
Alice?
first Hammer film. She played Dolly.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Linda Hayden played Alice.
Is she in the book?
She is.
Okay. But you want to talk about Dolly.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Linda Hayden, she went on to do other things, and just what I told you, all it was in the book about this film was that she wanted to do it because she didn't have to take her clothes off, right? She didn't go on to do other things, and she was, in acting school and whatever. But Madeline Smith, who played Dolly, this was her first Hammer film. We have seen her previously in The Vampire Lovers, right? Her and Ingrid Pitt.
Oh, okay.
We saw her topless, Madeline Smith.
It's funny, it doesn't ring a bell, but I'm sure it rings your bell.
But anyway, I was reading about her, and she actually wanted to be a doctor, Karen, just like you, Karen, doctor.
Well, she probably wanted to be a medical doctor.
She did. But her only scene in this one was with the 3 men in the brothel, and she was with Mr. Hargrove, and she said she really enjoyed the scene. She was happy to do it, and they were all top-notch actors, but she wasn't quite sure about the snake, Karen.
But she didn't dance with the snake.
She did not. And after acting, she only did a few films after this. And then after acting, she got an English degree. So, Madeline Smith.
Our Hammer Glamour Spotlight.
All right, Karen, comments on our drink?
I did not drink our drink. I'm just going to tell everyone now.
Oh, you're going to come clean?
I'm going to come clean. It is a wine-based drink, and I think it's the tannins in wines that can trigger migraines. And I just fought one off, and I didn't want to take the risk. So I did not drink it, although it sounds delicious.
So it's a merlot, like I said at the beginning. And I'm not a wine drinker, but it's good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
It sounds good.
Pretty good. Mine has evaporated.
Kind of a weird take on a Manhattan, right? With the cherries and the bourbon.
You always say that.
Is it a Manhattan, or is it? I always get that one and another one confused.
Don't know, Karen. It's wine and bourbon and
what could possibly go wrong?
And cherries.
Yeah, it's sugar, cherries, and bourbon. What is that? Is that the Manhattan or the other one?
Don't know. I thought it was good though. It's better than a lot of the other drinks we've had.
Oh my God.
Even though it's got Merlot in it. No.
Why don't you like wine? You just don't? Or is there just you prefer other things?
I mean, after a while, wine is great. You keep drinking it.
Sure is. Go on a wine tasting in the Napa Valley. I don't even really like wine, but by the 4th winery, this is fantastic. Then you get it home and you're like, I thought this was so good. I don't understand. Yeah,
but right now, as I'm speaking, Merlot may be my favorite wine.
All you have to do is add a little sugar, some cherries, and some bourbon, and bingo, Merlot is your favorite.
It's good. It's a good drink. That's all that's important.
Well, that's good because you probably have more Merlot.
All right. What did we learn today, Karen?
We learned about Hudson soap.
We did.
Side saddle and the lovely
Madeline Smith. Snow globes. When there's some snow globe
Oh,
stuff
I
in
forgot
there.
about snow globes. Got an Ozzy Osbourne and a Geezer Butler reference in there.
All right, Karen. Unless there's anything else, next film is your choice.
It is.
What film have you chosen for us?
I have chosen the 1960 film, The House of Usher.
Any reason why you chose that film, Karen?
Well, when that podcast comes out, it's the 21st.
It is.
And The House of Usher premiered on the 22nd.
It did. Do you have a cocktail for us to enjoy while watching The House of Usher?
I do.
And what would that be?
It's called The Madeline.
Like the Winger song, Karen?
I don't know. Maybe it's about the lovely Madeline that you talked about.
No, it could be. What are we going to need for that, Karen?
You're going to need 0.5 ounces of Contral, 0.5 ounces of amaretto, and 3.5 ounces of pineapple juice. And you're also going to need a champagne flute.
Awesome. I have all of that.
Excellent.
I love
It took me a
amaretto.
while to find a drink for this one, so we'll see.
All right, Karen, anyone you need to thank this week?
Well, as always, I have to thank our listener. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who's on your long list of thank yous for this week?
I only have 2 this week, Karen. Or 3. I need to thank Horror Clips and Roger Fitch for following us on our TikTok.
Nice.
Follow us on TikTok while it's still available in the United States.
Yes, in your state.
Before it's banned. And of course, I need to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast. And one more thing, Karen, before we move on, I need to say that this film has a 54% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 92% approval rating on Google.
That's quite the range.
Pretty good. Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.